Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Subhash Chandra Bose from Department of Journalism and Mass Communication in Banaras Hindu University. Today we are going to talk on module History of Regional Films. Under this paper, Women, Media and Films, in this paper you read about documentary films. Now in this module, we will discuss about the history of regional films in India, wherein we will focus on the origin of different regional films along with the components that have helped these films make a niche for themselves in a multilingual and multicultural country. After going through this module, you will be able to develop an idea about origin of regional languages in India and explain the beginning and development of regional films in India, and you will be also be able to describe in brief the major regional films, origin and growth, and finally you will be able to develop your concept about the famous regional cinema personalities. The cinema of Mumbai is known as Bollywood cinema or Hindi cinema. As we know, it is understood that because of its industry and its role, Hindi cinema shapes modern India as well as creates and spreads new culture and fashion in the society. But apart from this, there is another cinema stream that also gives an identity to the regional community. With the advent of talkies in 1931, many films began to be made in vernacular languages in different parts of the country. Like Indian literature, Indian cinema too emerged as one face with many voices. Films made in vernacular languages came to be known as regional film industries. Each of these regional films industries adopted the name of the language it produced films in. Friends, with the influence of the first talkie, Alamara, in 1931, which was released, its regional cinema began its journey with these films. During the decade of the 1940s, films began to be made and screened in Gujarati, Tamil, Telugu, Bengali, and other languages. Among them, Bengali cinema stood out for it was the only regional film industry which managed to prove its recognition on international panorama. Let us now discuss and widen our vision about the concept, idea, and major factors behind the beginning of regional films. Why regional? There is a question obviously will be raised as to why these films is known as regional films. Have you ever thought as to why the films made in vernacular languages are referred to as regional films? Well, the answer is that is because they are made in different languages spoken in different regions of India. To understand these regional languages better, let us examine their roots. India has been a witness to the evolution of many languages. These languages have been classified mainly into three groups. First is Indo-European or Indo-Aryan, and second is Dravidian, and third languages group is Austro-Asiatic languages group. Let us find out in brief these linguistic groups separately. Yes. First is Indo-European group or Indo-Aryan. It is considered to be spoken by 75% population in India. It is understood that Indo-Aryan languages are the result of a diversification of the old Indo-Iranian branch of languages, which were a part of the vast Indo-European family. These languages are derived from Sanskrit, the classical and religious language of Hinduism. Their text and alphabets derived from Devanagari, with the exception of Urdu, which is written in the Arabo-Persian alphabet in all corners of North India, in central part of India and the valley of the Ganges. And let us know about the second group of language, which is Dravidian. Dravidians are considered native to India, who were pushed back by the invaders to the south of the subcontinent. The languages these people spoke were called Dravidian languages. With the time, these languages absorbed a very considerable proportion of Sanskrit words and also adopted Hindu religion and culture. Dravidian languages exist in the forms of Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and Malayalam in the South India. Third is Austro-Asiatic is the third group of language. Students, let us know about this. It is divided into two groups. One group comprises Tibeto-Burmese languages of the pre-Himalayan regions and the other includes languages spoken in the extreme northeast of the country, which are Manipur, Tripura, Mizoram, Nagaland, and also such as Bodo of Assam region and the Mon-Khmer, which is spoken by some 5 million speakers in hilly regions. When films began to be made in these languages, they became popular by the name of the language they were made in. For instance, films made in Tamil came to be known as Tamil cinema, and the films produced in Marathi were dubbed Marathi films, and so on and so forth. Friends, let us know about the beginning of regional films. The success of Ardeshir M. Irani's first talkies, Alamara, inspired filmmakers to make films in their native languages. Thus, films started to be made in Malayalam, Oriya, Gujarati, Bengali, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Bhojpuri, etc. The theme of the films was often mythological. Let us know about the examine some of these vernacular films industries separately, like Gujarati cinema. Let us know about Gujarati cinema as from which date and from which period it started its journey. Friends, Gujarati cinema started its journey in 1922. It is called Hollywood due to its recognition and contributions to the Indian cinema. Gujarati cinema has gained popularity among regional film industry in India. Gujarati films have dealt with issues ranging from mythological to historical and from social to political ones. There are so many actors and directors from Gujarati cinema who work in Hindi cinema or what is popularly known as Bollywood cinema. Even before of the screening of the first talkie, Alamara, a short Gujarati sound films entitled Chao Chaune Murabbo was released on 4th February 1931 in Bombay. It included the song Mankad Karade, which was the first sound heard in any Indian film. It was produced by Manek Lal Patel with lyrics and dialogue by Natwar Shyam. The first Gujarati feature film entitled Mumbaini Sethani was released on 9th April in 1932. It was a short of two reel films. The first full-length Gujarati sound feature film Narsimha Mehta was also released in the year 1932. It was directed by Nanubhai Vakil. The film's cast featured Mohanlal, Maruti Rao, Master Manhar, and Miss Mehtab. It belonged to Saint Films genre and was based on the life of the Saint Narsimha Mehta, who absorbed a creed that was followed centuries later by Mahatma Gandhi. The film was matchless as it avoided any depiction of miracles. Another social movie, Ghar Jamai, was released in the year 1935, which was directed by Homi Master. The film starred Hira Jamna, Baby Noorjahan, Amu, Alimia Jamshedji, and Gulam Rasool. The film features a resident son-in-law or Gharjamai and it escapes as well as his problematic attitude towards the freedom of a woman. It was a comedy and turned out to be a major success in the industry. The scripts and stories dealt in the Gujarati films are intrinsically human. They include relationship and family-oriented subjects with human aspirations and deal with the Indian family culture. With the time, Gujarati cinema moved ahead in its journey with several other important social, political and religious issues also raised by Gujarati filmmakers. Gujarati movies such as Karyawar, which was released in 1948 and it was directed by Chaturbhuj Doshi, and the other film is Vadilona 1K. This film was released in 1950 and was directed by Ramchandra Thakur, and the other is Gadano Bale. This film was released in 1968 and it was directed by Ratibhai Punatar, and Lilu Di Dharti, directed by Vallabh Chokshi. These films brought an immense success to the industry. The movies like Gadano Bale had a strong realism and reformism. Kerala is known as one of the rich states on all parameters, as we know, be it literacy or arts. The first permanent theatre was established in Kerala by Jose Kattukaran at Ollur, Thrissur in 1913. Hence, it is known as Jose Electrical Bioscope. The first cinema hall in Kerala operated with a manually film projector was opened in Thrissur in 1907 by Jose Kattukaran. Malayalam cinema is the fourth largest film industry in India. Malayalam cinema is referred to as Mollywood. Its first released silent film was Vigatha Kumaran. The production of this film was started in 1928 and it was released in Trivandrum capital theatre on 23rd October 1930. Dear students, the film had both Malayalam and English languages in it. It was directed by J.C. Daniel, who also played the lead role. Daniel was a dentist who sold all his assets to make this film, which was an enormous success. The second Malayalam film, Marathanda Varma, which was directed by P.V. Rao, appeared on the screen in 1931. It was a silent historical film glorifying the optimus character of a Raja of that time who was a founder of modern Travancore in 18th century. It was the only film from the south which was preserved in the National Film Archive at Pune. The film was shown in the first International Film Festival of Kerala in Calicut. The first Malayalam talkies film was Balan, which was released in 1938. The film was directed by S. Nutani and was produced at Chennai. After this movie, another film, Janambika, was directed by S. Nutani in 1940. Then Prahlad film came in 1941, which was directed by K. Subramaniam of Madras and featured Guru Gopinath and T. Gopinath. Then the director P. J. Cherian came with Nirmala in 1948. It was the first film that explored the possibility of music and songs in cinema. The lyrics of the film were composed by the legendary Malayalam poet G. Shankar Kurup. The song became very popular, and the song and dance sequences became essential ingredients of Malayalam cinema. Another notable film was Neela Quili. This film came on screen in 1954. The film had an authentic story that was written by renowned writer Urub and directed by duo of P. Bhaskaran and Ramu Karyat. The film dealt with the issues of untouchability. This was also the first Malayalam film with outdoor shots. It went on to archive recognition at the national level. Malayalam cinema also felt the influence of neorealism wave of French and Italian cinema. As the Newspaper Boy was a Malayalam movie inspired by this wave. It was directed by P. Ramdas in 1955. At the period of 1970s witnessed a drastic change in the perspective of filmmakers and viewers of Kerala towards the cinema. At the heart of these changes were the emergence of young filmmakers and the advent of film society movements. Over the years, Malayalam cinema has come a long way, claiming many national awards. Malayalam cinema has been enriched by the services of a number of learned personalities with a flair for filmmaking. Prominent among them are Adur Gopalakrishnan, G. Arvindan, P. A. Baker, K. P. Kumaran, K. R. Mohan, etc., among which Adur Gopalakrishnan brought parallel cinema to Kerala. His landmark movie was Swayamvaram, which was released in 1972, introduced a new style of narrating a story in the films. And apart from him, G. Arvindan took the movement of parallel cinema ahead with his critically acclaimed film Uttarayanam in 1974. Apart from them, P. A. Baker, K. P. Kumaran, K. R. Mohan, M. T. Vasudevan, Padmarajan, and K. G. George also brought laurels to the Malayalam cinema. Now let us know about the origins and the development of Tamil cinema. Friends, Madras has been a center for film production in the South Indian languages, especially Tamil. The city has played a stellar role in the development of Indian cinema. Tamil cinema is regarded as the third largest film industry in India. The subjects of Tamil films were mostly taken from Puranas and mythologies. Tamil cinema started its journey with the release of its first silent film Kachikawa in 1916. The first talkie of Tamil cinema was Kalidas, which was released in 1931 and contained in total 50 songs. During those days in Tamil cinema, subject messages were elaborated through songs. It was similar to Bengali cinema when it came to elaborating an issues through various representations. just as it was a common practice among Bengali filmmakers to explain issues of films through jatra and drama. Tamil cinema also adapted the same way by bringing in drama, circus, and wrestling in its storytelling. The repertoire of the drama was limited to a few mythological, which was written as musical. The story was standardized as a series of songs. The whole journey of Tamil cinema can be categorized under three phases. First is the Puranic, mythological, and folklore period from 1931 to 1950, and the second is the melodramatic story period from 1951 to 1975, and the third is the partly realistic anti-sentimental stories period, that is from 1975 onwards. के बालचंदर, भारती राजा, महेंद्रन, बालू महेंद्र, दोरई, जय भारती, भाग्यराज, रुद्रैया, यच्चे काजा, they are considered as the pioneers of Tamil cinema. Some of the notable films of Tamil cinema, these are Uttari Pukkal, it was directed by Mahendran, and the film Pasi is directed by Dorai. These films challenges to the myth of the ideal heroine. Bharti Raja established the trend of shooting of films in village location, and Mahendra gave the villagers solidity, depth and relevance by his film 16 Vayadinili. After the demise of M.G. Ramchandran in 1988, Tamil film industry lost its speed, but the attendance of Rajinikanth, Jayalalitha brought back the honor of Tamil cinema. Both Rajni and Jaya acted not only in Tamil films but also in Telugu and Hindi films too. Further, Tamil films industry was enriched by the arrival of legends like Mani Ratnam, A.R. Rahman and Ilayya Raja, who gave and are still giving their best to the industry. They made Tamil films industry visible and popular on Indian map. Mani Ratnam is a prolific director who makes not only Tamil films but also Hindi, Kannada and Telugu films. Many films in Tamil languages have been dubbed in other Indian languages. Rajnikant's Robot, which was originally made in Tamil, and Prabhas and Anushka Shetty starrer Bahubali and Bahubali 2, which were originally made in South Indian languages, went on to be dubbed in other languages too and claimed nationwide attention. These films underline the success of South Indian cinema. Bahubali and Bahubali 2, the conclusion. These films were directed by S.S. Rajmouli. Bahubali was released in July 2015 and Bahubali 2, the conclusion, was released in April 2017. These two films collected above rupees 1000 crore and were successful in foreign countries too. Now let us know and throw some focuses and lights on Bengali cinema. Friends, cinema established its strong presence in both Bombay and Calcutta. The Bengali cinema is also known as Tollywood for the Bengali language films. Industry is based in the Tollygunj region of Kolkata. The origin of the nickname Tollywood is the result of a portmanteau of the words Tollygunj and Hollywood. Calcutta had a nascent film industry in the 1910s. The city remained the capital of India till 1911, as we know, and in the field of art and theatre was at par with Bombay. Bengali cinema carved a niche for itself by producing some of India's best known filmmakers and films.
Bengal witnessed the first screening of a film in 1896. Only a few months after, Lumire brothers showed their films in Bombay on 7th July 1896. The credit for bringing films to Bengal goes to Hira Lal Sen, who started the Royal Bioscope Company and also making short film from around 1900. The earliest known Bengal film, Bilva Mangal, was released in 1919 and based on the play of the same name by Urdu playwright Aga Hashra Kashmiri. It was produced by Madan Theatre Limited, Calcutta, Jane's Film Corporation, which controlled silent film distributions and a chain of cinema theatres across the subcontinent. New theatres produced such iconic films as Devki Bose Chandidas, which was released in 1932, and the first talkie version of Devdas, released in 1935, directed by P. Barua with K.L. Sehgal, starring in the film's Hindi version. New theatre films were more influenced by the then Ravindra Sangeet and also assimilates the essence of work of Sharat Chandra Chatterjee. Sharat Chandra Chatterjee is regarded as the best-selling popular novelist in all over country. Well, Bengal is the land which rich crops in the field of art, social and cinema. Till the partition of 1947, Calcutta was the intellectual capital of India, and still it is probably the richest Indian city in terms of culture. The middle of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th century, which was period of remarkable development of Bengali languages and culture. Rabindranath Tagore and Raja Ram Mohan Roy gave a new height and direction to the social, culture, literature and art of Calcutta. Cinema is always influenced by literature, art and culture of any society. Ever since the advent of the talkie, theatre which was particularly developed in Calcutta and novel became a source of inspiration for the Bengali cinema. Like all Indian cinemas, Bengali cinema also had and still has its classic commercial production in half melodrama and half realism, in which song and music play a considerable role. It was the decade of 50s when such kind of art creation was in fashion, but on the other hand, the period of silent films as well as the decades of the 30s and 40s has been brilliant in Bengal for several reasons. Around this time, new theatres grew with competent technicians creating awareness among the society through their art. Satyajit Ray, Mridal Sen, Tapan Sinha and Ritvik Ghatak were some of the giants of Bengali cinema. Through their works, Bengali cinema continued to earn name and fame for 4 decades. After them, young talents such as P. Patra, Buddhadev Das Gupta, Utplendu Chakravarti, Nitish Mukherjee, Gautam Chakravarti, Gautam Ghosh, and Aparna Sen took Bengali cinema ahead. The art creations of these intellectual giants win laurels abroad but find few exhibitors at home. During the 1950s, the Bengali cinema saw the emergence of its popular stars in Uttam Kumar and Suchitra Sen. They gave a new height to the industry. The best known event of the 50s Bengali cinema is nonetheless Pother Panchali. Pother Panchali film was directed by and made by Satyajit Ray. It was released in 1955, and this film was produced by the government of West Bengal. This film won the Best Human Document in the Cannes Film Festival in 1956. The film Pother Panchali was appreciated by the filmgoers and critics like Aparajita and Apur Sansar formed Satyajit Ray's Apu trilogy, which celebrated a silver jubilee in Calcutta. Noted Bengali actor Soumitra Chatterjee made a name for himself courtesy his role of Apu in Apur Sansar. Soumitra Chatterjee and Uttam Kumar became top male stars in Bengali cinema. They also worked in Ray's classic Charulata in 1964. Satyajit Ray worked with Uttam Kumar in Nayaka in 1966, which was a film supposedly inspired by Uttam's iconic stardom. Finally, Satyajit Ray received an Oscar for his lifetime's work days before his death on 23rd April 1992. It marked the end of an era, but the 90s also saw the rise of other young filmmakers in Bengali cinema industry. There were other Bengali filmmakers of repute too who gave new heights to Bengali cinema with their works. Prominent among them are Ritvik Ghatak, Mridal Sen, Aparna Sen, Rituparna Ghosh, etc.
Let us know about Bhojpuri cinema. Friends, Bhojpuri cinema is known as the heartbeat for the people of Hindi heartland. Filmmaking in Bhojpuri language was the dream of the first president of India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Dr. Prasad was from Bihar and had a soft corner for Bhojpuri language. He met with a film personality called Nazir Hussain. Friends, Nazir Hussain was from Ghazipur districts of Uttar Pradesh, and Dr. Prasad had asked him to make a film in Bhojpuri. And when the Dr. Prasad made his ask for making films in Bhojpuri languages to Nazir Hussain, then Nazir Hussain had worked with a famous film director of Bengali cinema with Bimal Rai. Bimal Rai is a film director from Bengali cinema, and Nazir Hussain had worked with him as an assistant. So when the Dr. Prasad made his urge for making film in Bhojpuri to Nazir Hussain, then Nazir Hussain could not refuse the request from Dr. Prasad. That's why came on the screen the first Bhojpuri film, that is Ganga Maiya Tohe Piyari Chadhaibo, which was released in 1962. It was produced by Vishwanath Prasad Saha Badi and directed by Kundan Kumar under the banner of Nirmal Pictures, and it was a good film.
A song based on Thumri, Babu Daroga Ji Kaune Karanwa Bhai Banal Piyawa Moor, which was sung by Shamsad Begum in Bhojpuri languages, was used by Mahbub Khan in 1943. This song boomed from Bombay to Lahore. Mahbub Khan was from Gujarati cinema, but he gave a space to Bhojpuri songs in 1943, and it was an admirable step for Bhojpuri languages. The decade of 90s saw a growth in Bhojpuri cinema. The films such as Mai, directed by Rajkumar Sharma, and Hamar Bhauji, directed by Kalpataru, did a great business at the box office. A milestone Bhojpuri films is Nadiya Ke Paar, which was directed by Govind Muniz and starred Sachin, Sadhana Singh, and Inder Thakur. Nadiya Ke Paar was a smash hit, and it established Bhojpuri cinema on India's map. However, Bhojpuri films' popularity dipped after that, and by 1990, the industry seemed to be completely finished. But again, a new wind came from Bhojpuri cinema between 2001 to 2005. A film that gave a new recognition to the Bhojpuri cinema was Sasura Bada Paisa Wala. This film was released in 2004 and it was directed by Ajay Sinha and starred Manoj Tiwari and Rani Chatterjee. The soundtrack of the film was directed by Lal Sinha. Lal Sinha is from Gaya in Bihar, who came to Mumbai in 2001 and started his career as a music director. Courtesy these films, Lal Sinha became the biggest name in Bhojpuri film industry. During the year 2008, Manoj Tiwari and Ravi Kishan were the leading actor of Bhojpuri films and their fees increased with their name. The success of their films led to dramatic growth in Bhojpuri cinema. Many famous figures from mainstream cinema like Amitabh Bachchan, Mithun Chakravarti, Raja Murad, Raj Babbar, etc. also worked in Bhojpuri film industry. Sujit Kumar, Kunal Sinha, Padma Khanna, Aruna Irani and Bhagyashree were among the popular figures of Bhojpuri film industry in the past. At present, Dinesh Lal Yadav, Khesari Lal Yadav, Pawan Singh, Pakhi Hegde, Monalisa, Amrapali Dubey, Akshara Singh and Kajal Raghwani are among the main faces who are working in Bhojpuri film industry and flying the flag of Bhojpuri lions high not only at the national level but also at the world level.
So students, now let us sum up all that we have learned so far. In this module, we tried to learn about the brief history of regional films industry and also about linguistic groups on which the nomenclature of regional films industries are based. We also discussed about the history of different regional films industries separately. Firstly, we discussed the Gujarati cinema, wherein the beginning and growth of Gujarati films were dealt with. After that, Malayali films industry was discussed and we tried to explain as to how this Kerala based industry went on to become the fourth largest film industry in South India. The contributions of major actors and directors like Adur Gopala Krishnan and G. Arvindan were also discussed. Our focus then shifted to Tamil cinema. Students, which is considered the third largest regional film industry in South India. The industry established its recognition not only at national level but also on world level. We explained how Tamil films were being dubbed in other Indian languages and making huge profit. Next in our menu were Bengali cinema and Bhojpuri cinema. We came to know about the contributions of Bengali film industry and filmmakers like Satyajit Ray, Ritvik Ghatak, Mridal Sen, Aparna Sen, Rituparno Ghosh, etc., who made Bengali cinema famous across the world. We also talked about Bhojpuri film industry and its progress over the years. Thank you.